So after the Mumbai Marathon on 26 Jan, there was a 100K ride happening. I rented a bike, decided to do the 100K bike. Went pretty well. The next weekend, I was supposed to do a combination of swimming and cycling. And it was pretty cold. You guys are familiar with Delhi winter. Got up early in the morning. There was only one pool which had a heated swimming pool. So I decided to venture out there. Went there at 6 o'clock in the morning, pitch dark. There was fog there. Nobody there at the pool. I just touched the water. It was not as warm as it was supposed to be. But since I'd come anyway, I decided to go ahead and swim, right? Went out, started swimming lap after lap, 1, 2, 3, 4. I had to do 50 laps. I did that, came out. And I kind of dried myself up, and I was totally okay then. But I didn't realize I dried my feet, wore my socks, and my slippers were wet. So my feet were wet for the 15 minutes that took me to get from the pool to my home. And that 15 minutes of wet feet led to a cold and cough, which lasted me for 2.5 months after that. So that's how severe the cough was. Anyway, no guesses. I decided to cancel the cycling part that day. The next weekend, I went for cycling, 60K cycling. My friend Rajesh was there with me, and he knows. I cycled for 60 kilometers, and I was wearing a bandana, and it was all soaked with cough, right? It was that bad a cough. The date for the event came up, 18th of Feb was the event. 17th of Feb, I consulted a few of my coaches. I'm like, look, this is bad state I'm in. Should I really go for it or not? So one dear friend told me, look, I know you well. If I tell you not to do it, you will even more be keen to do it. So just get up early in the morning and be mentally check yourself. Are you ready for it? I woke up at 3 o'clock, got all my running, cycling, swimming gear ready. I felt okay. I said, let's do it. Reached Talkotara Stadium, dipped into the pool. I was supposed to do the swim in about an hour. I did it in 55 minutes. Felt even more confident that I'm kind of doing better. Jumped onto the bike, started the bike ride. We were supposed to do 9 rounds around Talkotara Stadium, which are 10 kilometers each. That translates to 90 kilometers. 6 rounds, totally fine. At the middle of the 7th round, I heard a disturbing sound. Psss. You guessed it? I had a flat tire. And I was not equipped with a puncture repair or anything like that. So I had to drag my cycle all the way back to the start point. They had a support staff, and they were like, don't worry. They quickly replaced my tube, the tire tube, and they said, go ahead. I just took the bike out of the stadium and started at about 10 meters. Again, there was a disturbing sound. Psss. The same tire had burst again. I went back, and they're like, why did you come back? I said, I have the flat tire again. No worries, we changed the tube again. They changed the tube. I went out, 7th round complete, 8th round complete. At the 9th round, almost at half the way, I had still 5 kilometers to go. Guess what happens? The same tire had burst again. And unlike my good timing, which was in the swimming, I was already getting late now, right? Twice I had to go back to the start point. I was literally at the stage where I was like wanting to give up. I was like, first the cough, I had bad health. I had almost decided not to do the event. And now this third flat tire. I was always in the mode of saying that, let me just finish the race and go back. There's a term called DNF, do not finish. That's the term I would have got if I would have stopped the bike ride at that point. But I said, since I've come here, and if this is the way God wants to test me, I might as well carry on the test and complete it. Went ahead to the end, parked my bike, started running, and I had about 3 hours left to do the run part. Now, at that point of time, my personal best for half marathon was almost 2 hours, 10 minutes. So finishing in 3 hours per se should not have been a problem. But psychologically, I was kind of battered. Bulk of the runners and the finishers who had supposed to be far behind me had also gone ahead of me. The hydration had stopped. The vehicle had opened up. And there was literally, and at 10 o'clock in the morning, even on a winter day, it starts getting hot, right? I was kind of frustrated. But somehow there was a mental challenge which I took up. I was like, I just need to get to the end mark, right? I finished the first round, finished the first 10K. At the second 10K, when I was reaching the touch point, I looked up at the watch. It said 8 hours, 40 minutes. 20 minutes before the finish, I did finish it. This is an example I wanted to share with you. It's not my physical strength which was carrying me on. It's purely mental strength. Right? We all have that ability in us to complete a marathon. It's just the initiative to get going, right? When we compare marathon and life, right, the first question comes is why? Why are you here, right? If I'm turning spiritual and philosophical, I'm saying your purpose of life. The purpose of life and purpose of doing the marathon can actually decide how your marathon goes or how your life goes. Some of us runners have a target time in mind. I want to finish the marathon in 4 hours or 5 hours. Then I'll prepare myself. I'll have a pacing plan. I'll have a hydration plan, which is all aligned with my finish time. Some of us are lost in life. We don't know what's our purpose. We don't know why we are studying. We don't know what job we are doing. We don't know what we are going to do next. It will be difficult for you to survive, right? You want to find the purpose. That's first thing. A marathon distance is exactly 42.2. I know exactly what's the finish point. I know that I'm going to finish it. Same is true with life. Some of us believe that we're going to live forever. I'm sure the science and technology is working hard towards enabling longevity forever. But reality is, the moment you're born, the only thing you're guaranteed is death. The moment you start the marathon, the only thing you're guaranteed is that there is a finish point. You need to reach the finish point. What state you reach in, what condition you are in doesn't matter. You're going to reach to the finish point at a particular point of time. And the moment you reach there, the feeling in your mind is going to stay with you forever. You need to run a marathon once in life to know what's life in a marathon. Yeah? The third part is, in fact, marathon is, while it looks like a solo journey, you're running with other runners. They're all different sizes, all different shapes, all different ages. Incidentally, we are in a country where the youngest marathoner and the oldest marathoner both are Indians, right? The youngest marathoner, a kid at 3 years age, has been running marathons. Fauja Singh, 100-year or plus, has been running marathons. Great examples, right? Similarly, in life, you will come across people, young, old, they're all there. They're running the same life. They're running the same marathon with you. You could either draw inspiration from them, or you could ignore them. Choice is yours. You are running your marathon at a particular pace. Pacing is an important strategy in running. Similarly, planning is an important strategy in life. If you pace your marathon really well, and you run at a particular speed, you know that you can predict the distance, and you can predict the time which will take you to finish the race. So is true with life. The more you are able to plan the life, the better it becomes, right? Important part is the support, right? Every marathon, before we start, we want to know what are the aid stations like. Where are we going to get our fruits? Where are we going to get our gels? Where are we going to get water? Where are we going to get nutrition? It's important. A distance of 42 kilometers, I want to make sure what I'm getting during the run. That will decide how comfortable I'm going to be, whether I need to carry gels with me or I'm going to depend on the aid station. Similar is true in life. You have cheerleaders all around you. I'm here giving you a TED talk. You all are there cheering me. In daily life, your parents, your friends, your bosses, your teachers, your professors, they're all your cheerleaders. They are there to support you, to ensure that you have a good life. We have the similar support when we are running a marathon, right? A big part about marathon, and especially before we start, is the uncertainty, right? You hear about a cricket match and they talk about the pitch. For us, we don't have a pitch, but the weather plays an important role. The level of humidity, the level of the temperature on the given day can drastically decide how a marathoner performs on a given day. I've actually started Mumbai Marathon at about 4:30 in the morning, and it was 92% humidity. So even before we reached the start point, we were drenched with sweat, yet we had to do it, right? We had committed ourselves. Commitment is an interesting part, right? We tend to sign up for these marathons knowing for ourselves that we're going to torture our body. I'm using the word torture because it's literally a torture, right? It's not an average thing to run a marathon. Marathons are done all across the world in different varying conditions. There is even a marathon organized in the Atlantic. There's a marathon organized on Mount Everest. There's a marathon organized in deserts. People run for hours together in a desert. They have to carry their own hydration. They don't even have hydration points there. They don't even have milestones there to know how far they've reached. They have to depend on their own GPS system. Sometimes the GPS does not work as well. Now you'd say, why is this being done, right? Why are people being crazy enough to run marathons? The question here is, it is a chance for you to test yourself. It is a chance for you to know whether you can do it or not. Until you don't step out and start that run, you will never know whether you can do it or not. And once you do it, you are yourself encountering so many pains, you're encountering so many uncertainties in life, which you yourself have called for, that when the life throws those challenges, when the life throws those uncertainties at you, you're much better prepared, right? When you can run for 4 or 5 hours, you're battling injury, you're battling fracture, you're battling cramps, you're battling sprains, all kind of, sometimes your hydration runs out. There have been actually events where they didn't have hydration. They didn't have a bottle of water towards the end. And people were literally like drenched, and they were like thirsty like hell, but they had to go ahead and finish it. And once you face these challenges in a marathon, whether it's a job loss, whether it's a girlfriend ditching you, whether it's a job, whether you're not able to find a partner, whether you miss your flight, all these things in life become trivial challenges. And that's the beauty of running, right? When we ourselves are putting ourselves in so many situations in this 4 or 5 hour marathon, what life throws to you as a challenge becomes very trivial, yeah? And the uncertainty and the vagaries will remain. And from level of preparation perspective, you might prepare whatever you want to, but you will always face certain surprises, and you come to that point of decision, can I go on? Let me share one more example. So this is year 2022. I had signed up for the full Ironman. For all who don't know, full Ironman is a combination of 3.8 kilometers of swimming, 180 kilometers of cycling, and 42 kilometers of running. You're technically supposed to do them back to back. You can take a break in between, totally up to you, as long as you stay within the time limit, right? And there are transition times also involved which you need to account for. And I didn't have too much time to prepare for the full Ironman. I had literally 2 months in which I prepared, not the ideal time, so don't count on this. So within those 2 months, I had done 29 kilometers of swimming, 850 kilometers of cycling, and 230 kilometers of running. And this was across 9 weekends in month of June and July. August was the event. I still vividly remember 30th of July. It was my last bike ride. I was planning to do 100K, and I'd done about 96K outside the city. We don't bike long in the city because there would be too many traffic signals and there would be too much commotion. I was back in the city, just 4 kilometers more to go. I was approaching a traffic light, and in long distance cycling, we wear cleats. So our shoes are stuck with the pedal. It obviously helps us from the speed perspective that we can go faster. But as the traffic light was approaching, I was supposed to disengage the cleats and get my legs free. I did not do that because I thought I would probably cross the signal as it turns green, and it didn't. And I didn't uncleat, and I had to stop, and I fell, and I had a fracture. So my left wrist was fractured 2 weeks before the Ironman. And at that point of time, I didn't even know it's a fracture. I just parked my bike, went home, applied some ice packing. I thought it's just a swelling or whatever. But till evening, it had not subsided. I decided to go up to so I checked with one physio. He said, you better get an X-ray done. I got the X-ray done. Turned out to be a hairline fracture on my left wrist. Fortunately for me, the ortho himself was a cyclist. And he said, we'll need to put a fracture right away. I said, are you serious? And how long the fracture will stay? He said, 4 to 6 weeks. Maybe, if you're lucky, maybe 3 weeks. I said, dude, I have an Ironman in 2 weeks. He started laughing at me. He was like, there's no way you can do an Ironman with a fractured wrist. I said, look, you do your job, let me do my job. Ironman karna mera kaam hai, not yours. You just do your fracture. So he said, okay, when do you go? So I said, I'm going after 10 days. He said, come back to me. I'm going to replace the fracture with a splint. I said, what's going to happen when I swim? He said, you have to swim without a splint, without a fracture. I said, what about me having to pull the water with my hand? It's going to be tough. He said, you signed up for it, your job. I said, that's great. He's leaving it up to me. I said, let's take a challenge. Now, at this point of time, I'll tell you why I decided to go ahead with it, right? Ironman as a competition started in 1978, right? Roughly, there are about 4 to 4.5 million people who have completed an Ironman, who have participated in Ironman. The number of people who would have completed an Ironman with a fractured wrist, only me. If I can do it, well, That's the that's the that's the motivation for me. That's the motivation for me, that I'm doing something different, and I'm doing something different which has not been tried. I said, let's go ahead and try it out. So I went ahead. The event was in Kazakhstan, by the way, beautiful city. You might want to travel. Went ahead, went for the swim. Against my target of 1 hour, 40 minutes, I finished the swim in 2:03. And the transition time to get to bike was 2:20. So I had only 17 minutes to get off my swimming gear and get on the bike. At 2:17, I was able to get on the bike. I didn't have any gels or nutrition in between. I said I will have it once I start going. Got on the bike. I was supposed to put a crepe bandage and a splint, and I just carried along with me. I said, let me put it once I'm I'm starting the bike. And I go along 5 kilometers, 6 kilometers. I'm not facing any pain. I'm not feeling any pain. I decided, let me carry on. A distance of 180 kilometers, which I had targeted in 7 hours and 30 minutes, I did in 6 hours and 56 minutes without any crepe bandage, without any splint. I did not feel a pain at all. And I was zapped. I got off the bike, came back. I had sufficient time for my run. I finished the entire full Ironman in 15 hours against a target of 17 hours. So I actually completed in less time than what I had targeted. And you will think that this is permanent. No, the next day morning, the pain was back. I had to put the splint back. It's not that my fracture had got repaired. It is just the mental zone that I was in, which helped me to overcome that pain to the extent where I did not feel a thing. This is a great example again, guys. Mental strength is what carries you. Your body will follow what your mind asks you to do. It's your mind you need to prepare. It's the mind which needs to be ready. And once you decide to do something, you can go ahead and do that, right? You will face challenges in life, whether you're prepared for it or you're not prepared for it. If you're a runner, you're better prepared for it. If you have encountered situations which you yourself called for, and it need not be marathon, right? Any physical endurance activity, right? Is as good as going for a brisk walk, going to the gym, going for cycling, going for swimming. Any physical endurance, any physical activity that you onboard yourself, you're also preparing mentally well for that. And that's the gist, right? Marathon of life is all about looking at life as a marathon and looking at marathon as a life. Thank you very much.